And Ron was also in a significant evening engagement with me one time.
Well, the thing is I know, you talked about the Thai nationals, that you couldn't trust them. These are the two guys that you could trust.
Oh,
you knew that you could trust them. And let's talk about one of the stories with the helicopter, because that is kind of an incredible story. So would you tell it?
Well, Lynn and I had a night off. We didn't get them very often. We were supposed to get them every 3 weeks, and it was more like every 6 weeks or so. So we went out and had a few beers, and we came back to the barracks. And we were just going to go to bed, and a truck pulled up, and the guys from Air Rescue got out, and they said, "Hey, Bridges, didn't you say you wanted to go on a helicopter ride sometime?" And I said, "Sure." And Lynn said, "Yeah, can I go?" "Sure, put your uniforms on." "What are we going to do?" "We're going to go look for a pilot." And this is something that happened fairly often. We ended up doing this other times.
But this was a unique time, because you must have had a premonition. The fact that you supplied yourself with a few things, so you had to have had some sort of premonition.
No, I don't know why I did that, but I put on my uniform, and the jacket is like a big coat, and it's got a lot of pockets in it. And I filled it with packs of cigarettes and gum out of my locker. And we were just supposed to be gone for a few hours. I don't know why I did that.
Why did you do that?
I don't know.
That's what I mean. It had to have been some subconscious thing.
So we got in. They hauled us out to the pad, the air rescue pad, and they said there's an F4 down, and we've got to go locate the guys that are in the F4. So after that, you couldn't talk much; it's too noisy and a little Huey. And we were flying, and you could see it was pretty good visibility that night, and I could see we were flying for a long time, and I thought to the east, and it just didn't seem right. It seemed like we were going too far to be in Thailand. But I could see little flashes down there, so I asked the crew chief, "What are those?" And he said, "Oh, those little flashes of light." He said, "You should sit on your helmet. That's small arms fire. They're shooting at us." I said, "Oh, okay."
Okay, I'll do it.
So I sat on the helmet. So we finally got to the crash site, and they let us out, and they said that we were right in front of the F4. And they said the pilot ejected, we got him. The guy that was in the back, we didn't find. Go look for him. And they said, now when you get out behind the plane was shot up. It couldn't eject its ordnance. There was all kinds of nasty stuff laying out there, explosive things.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Was that the normal thing, that if you were your plane was disabled, that you dropped the ordnance?
They would try to.
Okay.
They would. I think so. You know, I wasn't a pilot, but I was told that they did.
Okay.
But sometimes when they're shot up, the underside of it would be damaged. So the bombs and rocket pads and these nasty little things like softballs that would lay on the ground and wait for somebody to walk by them, all that kind of stuff was out there. So anyway, we had our flashlights and we went out and looked, and I found the guy that was in the back. And I waved my flashlight, and a helicopter came near us, and a couple of guys got out. One of them had a lot of stripes, and the other one had a lot more than me too. And I said, he's over there. And they said, where? And they said, show us. So I took him over and I showed him. And so the one of them handed me a body bag and said, well, you go ahead and put him in there. And I won't say what I said. I swore. And it got real quiet. And then they both broke out laughing. They said, you know, once in a while we can con one of you security people into doing that. It's really our job, but you don't have to. So.
Well, they took the pilot off, but left you.
They took the pilot back to the base, and then they loaded up the navigator that was in the back seat and sent him on his journey home. And then they said they had a powwow up there. There was a couple of helicopters and the officers got off and they were talking on the radio, and they said, well, we got to come back tomorrow, and we're going to have to salvage what we can off this plane and the ordnance, or blow it up or whatever. You fellas can stay here with us tonight. And I'm 19 years old, and Lynn's 19 years old, and being stupid like we were, we said, okay.
Okay.
Well, we couldn't really say anything else anyway.
True.
So they left. And with us was an interpreter. We had brought an interpreter with us because we were off base, and that's what you did over there. So we spent a good deal of the night just hanging around the front of the aircraft and looking around to see what kind of cover we had and so on, just in case we needed to. And the sun started to come up, and a group of people came up the road, and it looked like they were armed. We could see them from a distance. So there was a field with a tall crop in it near us, and we went in that field. And we hadn't been in there before, but that was our plan if somebody came by. And when we went in there, there was huge red ants that were dropping off this crop as we went through it. And it turns out that was a marijuana field, a big marijuana field. But anyway, they came up, this group came up and looked in.
What were they wearing? No uniforms?
No, not
nothing?
formal uniforms, but they were dressed alike. They were dressed up. You could tell they were
a unit of
some sort. And at this time, we still thought, we had no idea that we weren't in Thailand. And finally I said to Lynn, I don't know what we're going to do, but those fellas are looking right in here, and we might as well just step out there and see what we can. Well, our radio wouldn't reach a base. We were just on our own. So we stepped out there, and I said to the interpreter, go ask them who they are, where they're going. So he went up and he went habita, 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 and they went habita, habita, habita. And I said to the interpreter, what did they say? He says, I don't know. Oh, so we're not in Thailand anymore. So I got out the cigarettes and the gum, and I was so nervous I was dropping the packs while I was trying to open them. And I was giving away cigarettes and gum, and they were all laughing, and they were trying to say thank you and talk to us or something, or I'm going to kill you. We didn't know.
We didn't know what.
And then they walked away. Wow.
But how you thought enough to put those cigarettes. You were only supposed to be gone a short period of time, not for a long period of time, and it worked out just great, thank goodness.
But they were all heavily armed, these guys. There was a lot of, there were helicopters and aircraft on our base that were operated by the CIA, called Air America. They stayed off to themselves. We didn't talk to them. They didn't talk to us. I knew that they were operating groups like that out there, and it could well have been one of their groups, but there was nobody that spoke English with them, or Thai. Or wasn't going to speak Thai.
Or wasn't going to, right, either one.
Right.
You don't know. You don't know. But what an adventure for a young man and his buddy. Okay, you have the other man, and so you have another story.
The other one, Ron Harris and I were, this was early on. We were out there one night. Early on, the practice was on the guard posts that they would pick up like 2/3 of the guys if it was moonlit and there was nothing going on. And the security wasn't reporting that there was going to be any problems, because evidently we had reports. I don't know where they got the information. So they picked the guys up and took them in. Well, Ron and I were a long ways apart, but as soon as the truck was out of sight, we started to walk toward each other. And we met in an area where they were going to lengthen the taxiway and the runway, and there had been a grader out there, and there was big piles of dirt here and there. And I got close to them, and we came under fire. And so I jumped behind this dirt pile. Now, this guy's from Kentucky. They're all crazy. Okay. So we kind of peeked around.
I'm going to send them this tape. Go ahead, say it louder.
I peeked around. I said, what are we going to do? So we got on the radio, and the guy said, they're in the chow hall eating. It's going to take us 20-some minutes or whatever. Just sit tight. We'll be back. Well, we didn't know how many. There were like 3 people firing at us. Whatever. We don't know. You really, there was more than one. Okay. And this was, I think, maybe the first time. So he says, well, you know what we're going to do? He said, lay down some fire. I'm going to the next pile. So we went from pile to pile. We alternated like idiots going toward them, and they ran away. So we got up to the fence, and we jumped over the fence onto civilian property, and we ran after them. And we we're working our way back toward the base, and we ran into a house, and there was a family in there eating. And those guys were in there. They went in there and